To Hello Culture Matters podcast. Here's a quote before I introduce you to our guest. The tyrant dies and his rule is over. The martyr dies and his rule begins. Soren Kierkegaard. Our guest today, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast, coming back to have a conversation in tribute, give testimony to someone deeply important to us on the not only the Culture Matters podcast, but Culture Matters and to my life, our guest life, and so many others. Before I introduce our guest, I want to give a shout out. If you haven't listened to episode 115, 146, 175, 275, 371, and 558 of the Culture Matters podcast with Kevin DeLory, go listen to those episodes after this. And episode 865 was my tribute put out today. But our guest, the one and only Fobby Naghmi, mentor, friend, advisor to his customers, leader to his team, friend of the one and only Kevin DeLory. I wanted to invite you on the show in this tragic, for those that don't know, this tragic passing of our friend Kevin DeLory, who was a warrior, who I listened to on your podcast. It was an amazing episode. I'd love for you to shout out that one because it was touching. So thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast to honor Kevin and to really show, in my view, show some of the things we talk about by, you're busy, you have a lot of things going on, but you're here we are. Thank
Yeah,
you
I
for
mean,
coming on the show.
no, man, thanks for having me and thanks for thinking of me as always, man. It's it's funny, it's like just a few days ago I had a dream that you and I were doing a podcast. And it was just like it's weird, you know?
Totally separate event.
I think I believe I texted to you somewhere on one of the because I don't know if I'm using Instagram sometimes or DMing you or what I'm doing and but I said, dude, I just saw a dream that we were doing a podcast together. And I think that's when you like, well, we should do one a tribute to Kevin. I was like, let's do it. You know what I mean? And it was just
Well, because he had passed then after that.
right. Right. So
Wow.
it was just interesting times, because I think the last episode that I recorded with Kevin, February, um, I don't think it's weird, right? Because you look back at everything, right? And at least I do, right? And I'm sure a lot of people do. And like, could I have made the episode a little bit longer? Could I have flown to Rhode Island and hung out with Kevin? Could I, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And it's like, I know those are normal human thoughts to have, and the reality is that whatever amount of time that I was given with Kevin was my time. And that's cool, man. You know what I mean? And I want to obviously honor that time. And sometimes I believe human ego cheapens that time by asking questions like that, you know? And I'll tell you one thing about Kevin that was really weird. I really was thinking about this when I was in Atlanta when I found out, by the way, that Kevin had passed. And so I said to myself, the weird thing about Kevin and I were like, we didn't talk every day. We didn't talk every month. We didn't talk every year. But when we spoke, there was no gap in time.
Hmm.
And I've always believed that that's the mark of a true friendship. It wasn't like there was this uncomfortability, there was this trying to get to know each other again. It was like the conversation just took off wherever we last ended it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really special. That's, I'm sure you can relate, Jay. You don't have a lot of friends like that, where the conversation can just continue.
I want to say that so much of who Kevin was creating that. It was like a generator. Yeah, if he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, it was clear. So I think
Yeah.
we both passed test one, I think. You now you
Yeah.
you you did a book on leadership matters.
Yeah.
What, and you studied all these leaders and have collected all of these leaders. And what was it about Kevin, having known him all those years, that you said this is somebody that I would want to see, if not in volume one, in volume two or volume three?
Kevin was one of those guys. How do you say this, man? He was able to he was he was able to tell people to follow him without telling him to follow him. I mean,
Oh.
you just got like I hope you understand that. I mean, like it's not like, hey guys, I'm going to convince you to follow me. It's, hey Jay, I'm going over here, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go with you because of the trust that they had in this guy.
Hmm.
And that's it's a very high level of trust at that point. So
What do
to
you think
me,
creates that?
well, trust is built upon results. So proven results over a period of time. You know what I mean? I think definitely does that. Him and Kenny Phillips had been friends for, I don't know, a couple of decades, I guess, right? Um, and so
Yeah.
Kenny knew, you know, like unequivocally that if Kevin made up his mind, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna do it. And then that gets transmitted to other people. And then I also believe there is that X factor, dude. And
Hmm.
I don't think you can do a show about Kevin DeLory without bringing up the X factor. And I don't know what that X factor is, bro. So don't ask me this question. I don't. I'll give you some bullshit answer, and I don't like to bullshit you, Jay.
Uh, oh, well, yeah, I have some opinions of it.
Yeah, but there's an X factor that some of us have. Kevin definitely had it, right? And it's you can't
It's
quantify it.
palpable,
Yeah, and you feel it the minute you're in that orbit.
is an intensity.
Yeah, and it sucks you in. You know, it sucks you in. And I think part of his energy also was he was very service orientated. He was a very giving person. That was part of that X factor. If I was going to really try to slice it, like I remember at the Vision Summit in Tampa, in the outside uh, eating area, whatever that was, by the hotel we were all staying at that one time, and I passed by him and Kenny at the bar. I didn't notice him, and Barry was sitting down somewhere, so I was going to go have lunch with Barry. And Kevin comes running up and says, Fob, you too big to hug me? And I was just like, dude, no, you're like, I didn't see you because I guess Kenny had been calling my name and I didn't recognize Kenny's voice. I didn't know, you know what I mean? But like, that's Kevin, you know what I mean? Like, he would, like, other people may have just said, oh, screw Fob, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean?
Mm.
No, this guy had walked over and hunted me down.
As a leader, why do you think it makes a difference to be the one to reach out first?
So it's funny, right? There's a book in years ago, and I forgot the author's name. You probably know it, but it was about servant leadership. And then the
Hmm.
funny part is
Oh.
that on LinkedIn, right, you always see people like give their title as a servant leader. And I'm always fun. It cracks me up. Like I'm a visionary and a servant. It's like, dude, if you have to put that on your title, then really are you? But servant
That's a
leaders,
good point.
servant leaders go out of their way. They will do the walk. They'll hunt you down. They will come and talk to you. They'll initiate the conversation. They're not waiting for you to recognize them. They're going to recognize you.
I want you touch on something that I think I want to elaborate on. When you're laughing about, right, the servant leader putting the statement out there, I think part of the reason that's funny is it's an oxymoron. I don't think the servant leader is even thinking of how people perceive them, and let alone to say, hey, I'm certified servant leader.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're laughing. Like that's the funny part of that. And I think on your episode, when he was on your episode, I listened to that. It was about uh he was critiquing those that do it for, I love it. It was like power,
Mm-hmm.
and those that do it for the
Prestige.
money.
Yeah.
But he was
Yeah.
talking about uh, people, process, profit. Am I getting that?
I think so. Yeah. The
It was
three
around the
P.
people, and it was
Yeah.
around like it was either process or product profit, but the profit wasn't. just making money. It was what are we actually making, putting back in the business or back
Ethically, you
in.
have to do, he said ethically, he used the word ethically. I remember that. You know what I mean? That it's got to be for the right reason.
What's powerful? What's powerful about that to you? And even you saw his career because you
I,
came
I,
up in the business together, right?
yeah, I mean, I think Kevin was always about the people. Like if I had to take all those P's apart, right? I think Kevin and I both are. So maybe that's why I recognize in him. So maybe the quality that I love about myself is probably the quality I loved about Kevin. Is we genuinely care about people and we genuinely want everyone to succeed around us. Like that actually makes us happy.
Hmm.
We're not jealous if somebody makes money. We're like, cool, make more or have a
Yeah.
happy life, have a happier life. And I think Kevin really embodied that. I mean, I met Kevin 2012 at Carrington Mortgage,
Wow.
and he was a really skinny kid back in those days, you know? He was on the wholesale division, I was in the retail division. So there's always like a little bit of a challenge, you know what I mean? Like, could we outperform them? Because wholesale will always kick in our ass. And but one of the things that I think Kevin and I both admired about each other was that we could outwork anybody else in our channels. So they had two West Coast regional vice presidents, and I was the only sole guy on the eastern side, and I was outperforming the two guys on the west.
Wow.
And that kind of stuff didn't go unnoticed. I mean, so Kevin took notice of that. And I remember like one of the first conversations he had me when he said, "Man, I've been trying to figure out who you are and what are you doing?" Because we all saw each other's numbers, wholesale, retail. I mean,
So he was asking you questions.
yeah, it was really cool. I remember that. It was all, yeah, we were at the President's Club circle or whatever.
Yeah, what would you say are some behavioral tendencies you recognized at that time that you could have said, that's probably
I
why he
don't think I
became
would have,
so
yeah,
successful.
I don't think I could have said anything at that time for either of us. I think both of us were so buried in the 2008 debacle
Wow.
that it was like you were just, just trying to swim to get to shore. And so it was really like, yes, it was good times because a lot of opportunities were available to us. But I don't know if I could pause and say, "Oh wow, this guy's got something going on," or Kevin could do the same for me. I do know when I resigned from Carrington, Kevin was one of the first people I called to let him know I resigned. And I'll never forget this. He always said, "This makes me worried when people like you start leaving a company.
Wow.
Like, what kind of company am I working at?" So that was a, I mean, that was a pretty good nod. And but yeah, man. I mean, I think it was just one of those friendships that it's weird, Jay. We don't make like you and I. We don't make friendships. At least I don't. I mean, I know you don't, and maybe other people do. But for the sake of like knowing somebody, we just make friendship because of a kindred spirit. Like something about them touches us, and so we want to continue that. I think that's what Kevin was. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I didn't see him every day. I didn't see him every week or whatever. But when I
He
did see him,
he
it was great.
he lived by love, honor, and respect. What do you take from each of those?
I mean, every single word of those definitely defines Kevin.
How so on love?
Well, I think, especially in the last few months of his life, I think he redefined love. I think he was lucky enough to actually experience true love as one can, as a human being. Like he
Hmm.
felt it. I could see on the show that that's why I got so emotional interviewing him because I could feel the energy that he was actually giving, and it wrecked me. I'd never broke down before interviewing anybody.
Wow.
Yeah, but it wrecked me. Normally it's the other way around. Like I'll make some guests cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think I could feel that he'd actually touched love, and respect and honor. I think that's part of the creed that Kevin came from, and once again, I think he gave respect when you gave him respect, I mean, so it was always that mutual understanding with Kevin. But I think he was also, one of the things that I found remarkable in that last interview was that he said how he knew that he wasn't always the best father, the best husband, the best business leader, the best that I mean, and
Yeah.
how I really wanted to change all those things.
Hmm.
And I think that's just that's the development of the human being when we can actually begin to see our shortcomings.
Do you you know, any stories that come to mind?
So there was
Because
this,
he had a personality that we love.
yeah. I mean, there was some, but I'll share with you something that popped in my memory that was really funny.
Keep it PG-13.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, but we were at the president's trip for Carrington, and they had this really nice at the hotel. That what's that hotel? In San Diego on Corona Island. So
No.
Hotel Del.
Hmm.
It's like a artifact or something. You know what I mean? Anyway, so Karen had rented this whole thing out for us, and we were doing this thing on the lawn. And as the business channel leaders, you would go up and give the trophies out. And I went up to the microphone and I said, "Hey," because I was like the third or fourth guy. You know what I mean? Everybody had gone up there, and everybody was getting bored. And I went up there. I said, "Hello, my name is Fobby. I'm a recovering mortgage broker." And I remember seeing Kevin like right in front of me, and he was like absolutely losing it. Like, and that memory when I think when I first heard of Kevin's passing, I don't know why, but that memory was like
Oh,
resurfaced all of a sudden. The laughter, you know what I mean? Because I don't know why I focus on Kevin either, by the way. When you're up there on a podium speaking sometimes, you see things. And I think it was the safety with Kevin, the comfort that I had with Kevin that let me focus on him to tell the joke.
when I think of his career, though, and correct me if I'm off on this, but like you told me about your father and how successful he was in insurance,
Hmm.
and he was a writer, wasn't he, or a
Yeah,
thinker?
yeah,
And KD was a history teacher. He's a teacher. He could write. He could read. He was a thoughtful. He
yeah.
would always break down these different analogies, and he was actually working on a book of the different kind of like the different like almost like a satire of leadership.
Yeah, I mean,
Like he had all these brilliant concepts. He was
I
very much a philosopher.
look, man. I mean, I think you know, reading was not something that he was like unfamiliar with. So as we find so often in our industry, right? I mean, and I think that's another thing about leadership, by the way. When you asked me early on, leaders read. We're absorbing information. Kevin was absorbing information. When he interviewed for me on his podcast, right? He had read my book.
Wow.
And he was like going through my book, asking me how I meant by this, what I meant by that, what I mean.
Really? Well, oh wait, you went on his
Yeah, the
whole
whatever that,
perspective?
yeah.
What was that like?
That was cool, man. I mean, he had been on my podcast before. And so it was nice that he was able to turn the table around. It was funny because him and Kenny were both co-hosting, and this was a memory where Kenny was like the guy that had written out all the questions ahead of time, and Kevin was just like ad-libbing everything, But Kevin had read the book,
Wow.
and so he wanted to dive into it. And that's where we came about how in my book, Falling Forward, whatever the rest is. I can't. I got this head cold, man. It's driving me crazy. But Kevin talked about the part where I didn't have gas in my house, in my gas tank for the heating the house, right? He talked about how he went through the same thing, and he went to the gas station to fill up the gas and bring it back to the house. So those kind of things, I mean, once again, we both went through that same like almost degrading moment in our lives, but we persevered and we came out on the other end of it,
Wow.
you know. But it was fun being on his podcast, you know what I mean? And I think he was a good host. I think they had a really good setup there. I think they did everything, in a very professional and nice, tight manner. Very similar to what Kevin would, similar to Kevin's personality. I mean, think about the suits that he would wear
Mm.
with those eyeglasses. I mean, he was making a statement. I mean, his brand. I mean, the minute you saw Kevin DeLory, you knew his brand. And
Great point.
I was announced to, I think even on this last episode, like if you don't know Kevin, I don't know what you're doing in the mortgage business. It's just one of those names. You got to know Kevin DeLory. I mean, what are you doing in the mortgage business if you don't know Kevin DeLory? What's wrong with you?
And it should be like that forever.
It really should. I mean, I think, look, the people of us that were fortunate enough to be around him and to be with him and have those moments. Look, when he called me on the phone before we did the podcast, like I was floored, man. I thought he was okay. Like he had made those videos, he'd been putting up. So I thought he was like on his, you know what I mean? Like, and he called me up out of nowhere saying I'm the first phone call he's returning from all the text messages he got. And I said, "What text message, Kev? What did I send you?" He goes, "It's something about writing a book." I said, "Oh man, that book's been out already. You missed it. So we'll have to get you on the next one." But then we started talking about his life and what he'd been through. And I was just floored. And and it's just one of those things, man. I just, there's not enough time in the day to do everything that we want to do, but we are blessed to have the time that we do.
Hmm. Yeah, what can we learn from this? I'm thinking of Rule 12 and Beyond Order. Be grateful despite your suffering.
Yeah, I mean, look, gratitude is the best thing to always land on, right? Because nothing should ever detract. Okay, so this is a long-winded answer, man. Man, you got me. Okay. Too often when people pass, we make it about ourselves. Oh, I wish I'd gone to Rhode Island. Oh, I wish I had gone to Tag when he invited me to Atlanta a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Me. I wish, right? Well, that's going to cause us suffering. Anytime I'm wishing for something, I'm causing suffering. I'm taking the focus away from Kevin and his legacy. I'm making it about me now.
Hmm.
I can't make this about me. This is about Kevin. This is Kevin's moment. Like, I wasn't, like, I was going to take a clip of him talking about when he was in that 31 days of coma from the podcast and how he felt a hand come up and reach him out of the water. And that was going to be my tribute clip to him this week. And I swear to you, I went to the cabinet on Saturday morning to get my coffee mug, and the whole perspective coffee mug was sitting right in front and center.
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe my wife put it in the dishwasher and put it up there. I don't know. But I knew instantly, like, that coffee mug meant something totally different to me today than it did any other point. And so, being a content creator, boom, we take a picture of it. I know in my head what I'm going to do now because this is the Kevin tribute. I don't need a reel. I don't need to go through all the editing. I can just let my words speak highly of exactly how I'm feeling at this moment.
Yeah.
And that's the power of Kevin DeLory.
I when we first found out that he got, cancer, I I made a decision to shave my head,
Hmm.
and I want to be clear that this is like recorded. He helped me. He he helped me. He changed my life because I had lost. I was in the fog. Rule 3, Beyond Order. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog.
Mm.
I was in the fog. And
Where did,
he impacted me so much. I said, I'm going to shave my head. And once it was shaved, it's parts of me that I had lost trying to find my potential came back. And that was, he helped me. Something about him, how he lived, love, honor, respect, how he showed up as a leader, how he loved, how he honored people, how he respected me, his team, seeing the culture that was real. It, it pushed me to rediscover parts of me.
hmm.
And it's happening again
That's powerful, man.
with his elevation.
Yeah.
And it's like the the spirit that he had was so powerful
Yeah.
that it's and I've watched all the stories, people sharing stories, friends, coworkers, mentees, partners over the last few days in person, over dinner, sharing stories. And it's like, this is what one person can do. This is what Dr. Peterson means when he says, clean your room, stand up straight with your shoulders back, treat
Yeah.
yourself like you're someone you're responsible for helping. Because you can change the world by taking yourself more seriously, by being someone that says, follow me without even saying the words. I
Yeah.
hope the audience takes something because I learn from him every day.
Yeah. I think the most, when I think Laura Brandeo, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, shout out to Laura.
years ago, Laura and I were talking about this, that it was odd that both Laura and I in the year 2018 started worrying about our legacies. Like, what am I leaving behind? Like in
Huh.
2018, I was so self-absorbed with just winning that I wasn't seeing the bigger picture of life outside. And I think sometimes, like I really felt my last talk with Kevin, he had reached some level that I don't think I've reached yet.
Wow.
Like it was such a different interview, man. I mean, how many hundreds of people have you and I spoken to, Jay, in the years that we've been interviewing people?
More than I can count, more than I'd like to admit.
So, I mean, it's just weird. Like, in that interview was probably the most powerful interview that I've done. And I wasn't even the one being interviewed. But and when I released it, you know what I mean? When I released it like 2 weeks ago, thank God I did 2 weeks ago, so
Wow.
Kevin got to see it, right? I mean, I put in the notes like this is the most powerful interview I've done. Like this one rocked me to my core, and people didn't understand it until they actually hear it, and then because I think Kevin was talking about so much more than just leadership in that interview. It's almost like he was making things right, and there was an atonement.
Wow.
And I think as human beings, the closer we can get to that atonement, that's when stuff really starts like just, you know what I mean? The light really shines through as it did earlier with the window on me.
Yeah,
But
if
he'll
there's
be
one,
missed, man. I mean, it's definitely when my friend Gabe told me about it, I was in Atlanta and Gabe knew to tell me one on one, like, and I was just I was shocked because I thought he was okay again. You know what I mean? I thought like after the interview, I mean, like he's back. I think somebody had said that, and then I think somebody else texted me something, but it was just a weird moment. But once again, I know that I'll never forget that moment,
hmm,
like where I was when got told.
final questions, 2025 recording this, what would Kevin do? How would he close the year out?
Strong. Strong. He's going to try to beat records. He's going to try to like set new records. You know, he's going to lift everybody up to get to be their best. If you're not their best, then something's wrong with him. I
Hmm.
mean, there is there is no way, man. You know what I mean? That it's going bad. I don't see Kevin. I never saw Kevin ever lose in my because the thing is the feeling of losing is way more intense than the feeling of winning. And people like Kevin DeLory embodied that feeling.
Man, that's such a good point. And I think that's a winner's mentality, a true winner's mentality.
Right.
That's such a good point. You said the feeling of losing is more intense than winning.
Yeah. Because like winning, you take for granted, like, okay, we won, big deal. What's next?
What's next?
But the loss is like, oh my God, I didn't, I mean, like you're gonna beat yourself up for days. Now, even though you're not supposed to, but you do because that's the way the mindset works. And then you reprogram and you come, and that's what I'm saying. Like
Of
Kevin
a
DeLory.
responsible leader, of an engaged,
Well, we're
now I
talking
never
about Kevin
forget.
DeLory, man. We're not talking about some loser. We're talking about Kevin DeLory, dude. We're talking about how he would have finished the remaining 2025 out. It would have been absolutely powerful because he was on a mission to prove everybody that he was back. That was the other part of that episode. I don't know if you caught, where you talk about how he's come back and everything was working fine, but he's going to make it better. That the best month that they had was when he came right back. Set new records. You know what I mean? Instantly. There's that mindset. And you just can't build that mindset. It's weird, man. It's really weird, you know. But listen, I think he would love the fact that you and I are talking so much about him.
He's watching.
Yeah, he would love this. And he would probably be thinking like, what the hell, Fob? Why are you just go back to work? Why are you wasting time?
On that note, if you're listening to this episode, where can people listen to Kevin on your show? What's the episode? I don't think it has a number, but it's
Yeah. You know what? We stopped giving out numbers. Because Jay, you are not a number when you come on Laugh, Let It Eat. You
uh,
you are the embodiment of the entire season is what I've kind of taken that on to
so they
now.
need to type in his name on Laugh London Eat. I was getting coughed up at the left. You're getting caught up with the name of the show here.
That's the funniest thing I've said all episode.
Yeah, the Laugh
You
London Eat.
you are
Thank,
season 6, Jay.
thank you. Yeah, well, I should come on it, yeah, every day. That's what Kevin would have wanted. You're gonna have to
Yeah,
do a whole
it's
series.
what we started doing was we started naming them. So this is the three things about leadership that no one talks about, but Kevin DeLory just did.
Wow, it's impressive.
That was the title of that episode, man. You know what I mean? Because no one was talking about those three qualities.
All right. Well, I want the listeners go listen to that episode. Share this with somebody that you love, that you
Yeah.
care for.
It's on YouTube, man. Laugh, Let It Eat channel.
Laugh, Lend, and Eat channel. Please share this with somebody you care about. Leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. Go listen to that episode. Bobby, thank you.
Always my brother. Love being here, man. Thank you.